Is the mark of the beast in Revelation a microchip, a barcode, a tattoo? What does Scripture really say? In this video, we will discover what the first century Christians understood. The book of Revelation, a vivid and complex apocalyptic text, introduces the enigmatic figure of the beast, portrayed as the ultimate adversary of God's people. In Revelation 13:16-18, the text describes a dire scenario where followers of Christ are excluded from participating in the local economy unless they accept the mark of the beast on their right hand or forehead. This mark, associated with the mysterious number 666, has sparked intense speculation across centuries, with interpretations ranging from literal tattoos to modern technological implants. However, to grasp the true significance of the mark of the beast, we must anchor our understanding in the Jewish literary and cultural context of the Second Temple period, 516 BCE to 70 CE, during which Revelation was composed. By examining the text through this lens, it becomes evident that the mark is not a futuristic microchip or a physical brand, but a symbolic expression of allegiance that stands in direct opposition to the covenantal fidelity demanded by God in Jewish tradition. The Jewish context of Revelation, the book of Revelation, written toward the end of the first century CE, is a profoundly Jewish text steeped in the imagery, theology, and literary conventions of Second Temple Judaism. Its author, traditionally identified as John, employs apocalyptic language to address communities of Christ followers living under the shadow of Roman imperial power. Scholars widely agree that Revelation is an anti-Roman document critiquing the political, religious, and economic systems of the empire, which demanded loyalty to Caesar and participation in idolatrous practices. The beast, often interpreted as a symbol of Rome or its emperor, embodies the forces that oppose God's kingdom and persecute his people. To understand the mark of the beast, we must first recognize the centrality of Jewish scriptural traditions in shaping Revelation's imagery. The book draws heavily on the Hebrew Bible, particularly the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, reinterpreting these texts to convey its message. One of the most significant Torah passages for Jews during the Second Temple period was the Shema, found in Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Recited twice daily, the Shema begins with the declaration, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." This affirmation of monotheistic faith is followed by instructions to love God wholeheartedly and to keep his commandments ever present. "You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes." Deuteronomy 6:8. This commandment was taken literally by Jews who practiced the ritual of laying tefillin, small leather boxes containing Torah verses bound to the forearm and forehead during prayer. The tefillin ritual was a visible and tangible expression of covenantal loyalty to God, marking the worshiper as one who belonged to the covenant community. In the Second Temple period, this practice was widespread, as evidenced by archaeological finds, such as tefillin cases from Qumran and references in texts like the letter of Aristeas. For John's audience, familiar with this daily ritual, the imagery of a mark on the hand and forehead would immediately evoke the tefillin and its theological significance, obedience to God's law, and rejection of idolatry, the mark of the beast as a counterfeit sign. In light of this Jewish context, the mark of the beast emerges as a deliberate inversion of the tefillin, a counterfeit sign that signifies allegiance to the beast rather than to God. Just as the tefillin represent an inward and outward commitment to God's commandments, the mark of the beast symbolizes conformity to the idolatrous and oppressive systems of the Roman Empire. Revelation 13:16-17 states that no one can buy or sell without the mark, suggesting that it is a prerequisite for participation in the economic and social structures of the empire. This requirement mirrors the pressures faced by first-century Christians, who were often compelled to offer sacrifices to the emperor or participate in pagan rituals to access markets, guilds, or civic life. The mark's placement on the right hand and forehead reinforces its role as a parody of the tefillin. In Jewish thought, the hand symbolizes action and the forehead represents thought or intention. By binding God's law to these parts of the body, the tefillin signify that a person's deeds and mind are devoted to God. Conversely, the mark of the beast indicates that one's actions and thoughts are aligned with the beast's authority, whether through active participation in imperial worship or passive acquiescence to its demands. This interpretation is supported by Revelation's broader use of contrasting imagery, such as the sealing of God's servants on their foreheads, Revelation 7:3, 14:1, versus the marking of the beast's followers. The seal of God, like the tefillin, denotes divine protection and ownership, while the mark of the beast signifies spiritual and moral compromise, rejecting modern misinterpretations. Many contemporary interpretations of the mark of the beast, particularly within certain Christian circles, envision it as a literal, futuristic device, such as a microchip or barcode implanted under the skin to control economic transactions. While these theories resonate with modern anxieties about technology and surveillance, they are disconnected from the first century Jewish context of Revelation. The idea of a subcutaneous implant would have been incomprehensible to John's audience, who lacked the technological framework to conceive of such a device. Moreover, Revelation's apocalyptic genre relies on symbolic rather than literal imagery, using metaphors to convey spiritual truths. For example, the 7 heads of the beast, Revelation 13:1, are not literal heads, but represent political power, likely alluding to Rome's 7 hills or a succession of emperors. Instead of a physical mark, the mark of the beast should be understood as an expression of allegiance, whether inward, a mindset of compromise, or outward, participation in idolatrous practices. In the first century, this could have taken the form of offering incense to the emperor, carrying a certificate, libellus, of compliance with imperial worship, or engaging in economic systems tied to pagan rituals. Such actions marked individuals as loyal to Rome, in direct conflict with the exclusive devotion to God demanded by the Shema and the teachings of Christ. For John's audience, refusing the mark meant enduring economic exclusion, social ostracism, and even martyrdom as they remained faithful to their covenant with God. Theological implications. The contrast between the mark of the beast and the tefillin underscores a central theme of Revelation, the cosmic conflict between God's kingdom and the forces of evil. The beast, as the enemy of God and his people, seeks to usurp God's authority by claiming the loyalty that belongs solely to the Creator. By replacing the mark of God, the tefillin, with his own mark, the beast attempts to redefine human identity and purpose, drawing people away from the covenantal relationship with God. This struggle is not merely political or economic, but spiritual, as it involves the ultimate question of whom humanity will serve. For contemporary readers, the mark of the beast serves as a timeless warning against compromising with systems or ideologies that oppose God's values. While the specific context of Roman imperial worship has passed, the principle remains. Believers are called to embody God's commandments in their thoughts and actions, resisting pressures to conform to unjust or idolatrous structures. The tefillin, as a symbol of covenantal fidelity, reminds us that true worship involves aligning every aspect of life, mind, body, and soul, with God's will. In conclusion, the mark of the beast, when viewed through the lens of Second Temple Jewish literature and practice, is not a literal implant or tattoo, but a powerful symbol of allegiance to the forces that oppose God. By evoking the imagery of the tefillin, John presents the mark as a counterfeit sign that challenges the covenantal loyalty demanded by the Shema. This interpretation, rooted in the Jewish context of Revelation, reveals the mark's true nature as an inward or outward expression of compromise with idolatrous systems, particularly the Roman Empire. By understanding the mark in this way, we move beyond speculative fears of modern technology and embrace Revelation's call to faithful resistance, trusting in the ultimate victory of God's kingdom over the powers of evil. Thank you for watching. Please check out my series on Revelation. Like and subscribe if you have found this helpful.